Alright, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to quickly address how long you need to be resting between sets for optimal strength and muscle growth. So first thing to really note is that when you're natural, the primary driver of muscle growth is progressive workload. So it's progressively getting stronger on your lifts. That's the most important thing. That's what's going to drive the most of your muscle growth. So what's really pivotal is that, each month, month after month, year after year, you're seeing your big, basic foundational lifts go up. So a lot of what I promote is really pouring the majority of your energy into getting really strong at your squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, and, weighted pull-up, weighted chin-up variations. That's what's going to drive the majority of your muscle growth. So that's really what you need to be prioritizing. And so far too often I see people in the gym trying to do so much, trying to get as much done in as little time as possible. And this is the wrong mentality to have in the gym. When we're in the gym, we need to be performance oriented. We need to be focused on getting strong. That's the primary driver of our physiques as natural lifters. We need to be focusing our efforts on getting really strong at big foundational lifts. And study after study after study shows, and they've compared this typically between sets resting, 1 minute to 3 minutes. And between 1 minute and 3 minutes, they see drastic differences in strength and muscle gains. So that kind of 3 to 5 minutes, they see kind of negligible differences. But you really want to be resting, especially between sets of your big lifts, you really want to be resting anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And even when it comes to heavy sets of squats and deadlifts, like I'm resting between 5 to 10 minutes. Because what's really the most important is you want to take as much time as you need between sets to be able to replicate the performance of the previous set. You want to be able to bring that same intensity as you did to the previous set. That's of utmost importance, because here's the deal. When it comes to building muscle, what's really important is that you're accumulating quality reps, and when you're not resting long enough, you're actually falling out of that effective rep zone. So you need to be staying within 5 reps of failure for pretty much all of your sets. So if you're out of that 5 reps to failure kind of zone, then you're out of the effective rep zone and you're just doing junk volume. You're wasting your time. So you need to be staying in that kind of range. And when you're resting really short, when you're having really short rest periods between sets, you're falling out of that zone because you're not recovered enough to be bringing that same intensity. And let's say you're doing 3 sets of 10 for some hypertrophy work on, let's say, incline bench press. If you get 10 reps on your first set, but you only rest a minute and you can only get 8 reps on the next set, you've lost, you're going to gain less muscle as a result, because you've lost some effective reps that you could have gotten had you taken that extra 2 minutes between your sets. So it's really important. We need to be prioritizing our performance in the gym. If you want to do endurance work, guys, like, you can do that outside of the gym, but when you're in the gym, you need to be prioritizing your strength and your muscle growth. That's what's going to give you the results you're after. So instead of trying to do as much as possible, really take that time between sets of big heavy lifts. Take 3 to 5 minutes. Really prioritize getting strong, because it's going to be so impossible for you to get strong if you're resting a minute between sets of squats and deadlifts. You're never going to get strong. So instead of focusing on doing as much as possible, like, condense your training down. Focus on very hard-hitting movements, big, basic, foundational movements. Focus on getting stronger at them over time. Focus on resting enough between sets. And this actually ties in very deeply with the quality of muscle that you gain. So when it comes down to gaining quality muscle growth, which is really that myofibrillar growth, which is the growth of the contractile proteins of the muscle, if you're really targeting that kind of growth, which is real muscle growth, it's dense and it's functional and it's long lasting, you need to be lifting in that low to moderate rep range, and you need to be lifting heavy and taking long rest periods. Because a lot of what you see bodybuilders have is they have those puffy physiques that really they lose that size. As soon as they stop training, they deflate like balloons. And obviously that has a lot to do with their drug use, but it has a lot to do with the training styles they use, because they're focused on pumping a lot of reps, a lot of repetitions, a lot of volume with very short rest periods. And what that does is that triggers sarcoplasmic growth, which is really fluid in the muscle. So it gives you a very puffy and kind of full look. But as soon as you stop training, it subsides very quickly. Whereas myofibrillar growth, they've done studies, and people who train for myofibrillar growth and they lifted heavy, they lifted in that low to moderate rep range, they took long rest periods. even after a year after they stopped training, they still maintained a large amount of their muscle growth. So it's very important to focus on, you know, lifting heavy, taking longer rest periods, because that's going to build the type of physique that you want. So for long periods of time, people think of the hypertrophy kind of rest times as like 30 seconds to 90 seconds, and it's false, because maybe when that'll work if you're taking gear, if you're taking drugs, but when you're natural, it's a different ball game. You need to be prioritizing the strength gains, and it's so hard to gain strength when you're resting such short periods of time. So a lot of people will make excuses saying they don't have the time to be taking that long of rest, which is understandable. But here's my kind of solution for that. So for your big compound multi-joint movements, your key lifts, the ones you're striving to get stronger at and improve at, you don't want to compromise your rest times for those lifts. So you want to be taking proper rest periods between those lifts. When it comes to more hypertrophy work and just kind of building that muscle using lighter weights, you can rest, you know, 2-3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes is optimal for that. So even for my hypertrophy work, I still try to rest 2 to 3 minutes, even sometimes 4 minutes. I don't honestly track my rest times, because you're never going to gain less from resting longer. If anything, it'll benefit you. But if you're really short on time, don't compromise those big lifts. Take long rest periods, 3 to 5 minutes. But for your smaller movements, for those exercises you're doing kind of at the end of your training just to build more muscle, you can take shorter rest periods, because those aren't what's really going to drive your physique and your strength to begin with. So those aren't quite as important, but you really want to make sure you're getting that long rest period, because as I said, study after study has shown, you know, 1 minute is very much inferior to 3 minutes for strength and muscle gains. So it's very important. Take long rest periods between big compound lifts. You're going to gain more strength and more muscle as a result. So far too often people fall into the trap and the misconception that they need to be doing tons of different exercise variation, which is just not the case. So instead, if you're short on time, I recommend condensing your training down just a few exercises and make sure you're actually getting strong at them. So pick really hard-hitting movements, because you can really, the real reason why I promote getting strong at squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, weighted chin-up is because those lifts are going to hit almost every muscle in your body very effectively. It may not be optimal, but they're going to hit them very effectively. So if you're getting strong at those lifts, if you're progressively overloading over time, you're increasing the poundage in which you use on those lifts, your physique is improving, your strength is improving. So instead of like trying to take super short rest periods between sets because you don't have much time, just do a few exercises, but make sure you're getting strong at them. Because you, like, time after time, I don't lift in public gyms. I lift in my basement. I have my own home gym set up, so I don't have to deal with the bullshit in public gyms. But when I do go to public gyms, I see people just resting way too short, and they're weak. They're very weak as a result. So less is more when it comes to strength training as a natural. You don't need excessive exercise variation. Just focus on hard-hitting lifts, big multi-joint movements, and getting strong at them, progressing over time. And you don't need to progress super quickly, guys. Lifting, training as a natural is a very long process. Building muscle as a natural takes a long fucking time. So you're going to want to be patient, and it's always better to start light and just progress over time. So that's really the video for you guys. So really make sure you're taking those long rest periods between your heavy lifting, your key lifts. Take long rest periods, 3 to 5 minutes. Even between sets of squats and deadlifts, take 5 to 10 minutes. You're going to see way better strength and muscle gains as a result. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment. I want you guys to check out my free guide to natural strength and muscle building. I'll leave it in the description, and I'll talk to you next time.